Welcome back, Android, Sketchware, Java developers. Today, we're going to learn how to use authentication with our database and our storage. Okay, probably not the storage because it'll probably be a long video. So we're just going to use authentication and database to send our user information to the database when they sign in and verify that user and all that fun jazz. So let's level up our coding knowledge just a bit more. 2024. Droidly Codes. So as stated in the introduction of this tutorial, today we are going to learn how to actually utilize authentication, database, and storage to create a profile for our user when they actually sign into their account so that they can only edit their own profile and not have anybody else edit it for them or check to see if they're actually logged in, sort of thing. Now, this is something that's very common in a lot of applications. So when I sign in, for example, right now, when I log in successfully, I am granted with a UID, which is a unique ID for that specific user that is logged in. So for example, if I went to my Discord, for example, or something, and I wanted to change my my profile image or my profile name or all that kind of stuff, it asks you to relog back in before you save these changes, and that's because it's making sure that you are the actual one that's logged into the account with the username and password that you ended up setting for that. And that's what we're going to kind of do today. So the first thing we need to do is jump back over to Sketchware, go back into our application, and we're going to have to create two more edit text fields here. We're going to put them over top of our sign-in user, and these are going to be edit text fields to enter our email and edit text fields to enter our password. So we're going to just type in enter email, and in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're learning a lot with this project, because I have some more projects coming along that are going to be awesome and fun, like making a little game. So that'll be a fun project for you guys to get basically some more knowledge about, because there's so much that you can learn from just making a little mini game and use it even just to create some applications. So next we're going to go back and we're going to create a enter password field here. So enter password. Now we're not working on the UI much today. We're mostly still just working on just getting this working and making sure that everything on the back end is working fine. And then we're going to work on the front end kind of near like the end of this, where we are going to be using this as a generic chat application. So enter password. Now, when we click on our sign in button, we're going to actually use those two text objects. So click on your puzzle icon, go down to view, and those text widgets that I'm called objects there. Those are basically for our XML. We're going to enter our email. So we're going to check our email and our password for this user. Our password was password1test, or test1, sorry. And we can also mess around with things like checking to see if that password is actually the right password or not, right? So you can also do some if statements in there, make sure that there's no blank entries or anything like that. But we're just getting to the gist of how to actually set all this up. And I might add some things like this in the meantime before I do my next guide, just to show you, hey, this is what you could do. But I'm not going to go deep diving into all that kind of stuff. I just want you guys to be able to actually utilize these features. So the next thing we're going to do is click on this little icon on the bottom after we click on view. So click view, go to this icon on the bottom. That's a drop down menu for the main.xml, and click the plus icon. We're going to create our first new activity. So this is going to be an activity. We're going to leave it in portrait mode for now. And for our keyboard settings, I like to select it to hidden. For my status bar and my toolbar, that's all up to you. I'm just going to leave that on for now. I'm going to name this profile. Okay, so that's going to be our profile activity. Now, what are we going to do in here? So there's going to be a lot of things you're going to learn with this one. So in our onCreate, we're going to basically get some information from the user that is logged in. So first, we have to create a component. We're going to go into add. We're going to create a component authentication. We're going to name that auth again, just for the sake of this. We're going to just keep it simple. And when we go into our onCreate, we're going to get an extra key value from the activity prior. So what this means is that we have sent some information using an intent. An intent is basically to push something to another activity. So an activity to another activity kind of thing. So we're going to get the intent extra key from our main activity to this activity, and then we're going to set it to a string variable. So that extra key is going to be our UID. So we're going to create a string variable called profile UID, or you can do capitalize UID so you know what it is. And we're going to set that string UID from this get activity extra key, and we're going to just put our key value. So we worked with keys before, is UID. So this is the key that we're looking for. And we worked with this when we were working with map variables and stuff, right? So let's actually add a map variable too, because we're going to use that later on. It's called map data. Now, when we get that key, this is going to be very vital to us changing things in our database. So let's go over to our database, for example. So my database, JimJam, for example, we have not sent anything to this database in regards to this user's profile when they signed up for an account, which is what we're going to be doing as well. So when we send our information to the database, we are going to want to send that UID to the database instead of Sally. So we can get rid of Sally, for example, because we don't need that anymore. That's kind of a waste of space. And we're going to send that information to that database, get that information when we sign in, and then we're going to get that into our profile activity so that we can actually edit our profile in the next tutorial. So let's go back, because I want to keep these tutorials as simple and short as possible and have you follow them rather than getting you lost after the last like 15 minutes of the tutorial. So I know some of them are going to be a little bit long. So let's go back to our main profile, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to go back into our database for a second, click on the 3 lines, go to authentication. We're going to actually get rid of this user. Let's delete them, because I'm going to use that same email, but I'm going to get rid of that user altogether because we need to create that user's account. So on create user complete, we're going to create a more block, which is a method. So create a more block here, send user data to database. Pretty straightforward and simple. So let's do that. And then when we successfully have done this, so when this user has actually been able to log in and they verified their account and stuff, you're going to put that in here. So if they're successful and is verified, we're going to send that user data to the database, and we can just get rid of this toast message now because we're actually going to do something inside of send user data to the database when they've created the account. We're not going to send information to the database after they've signed in. That's because they've already created this information, and we're going to edit that information in the actual profile. But what are we going to do in here? So what we're going to do in here is go to our variable blocks. We're going to create a map variable, and we're going to set up a few different things here. So different keys in our map variable. So let's go here, map variable. Let's select these drop downs. Okay. So you don't want to save users' email addresses normally, unless you have a really good privacy policy that these emails will not be compromised or anything. So I would not recommend you to use a key value for anybody's email, because the email is stored in a private database inside of the authentication section, so that only you have the authority to see all these emails and send other users emails based off of this. So I'm going to use only their username. So U for username, age, and image. Okay. I for image, UAI. That's it. That's all we're going to do. Now, we don't want to do anything else like saving their key values, their UID or anything in here either, because somebody could technically try to change their information if they have access to the database. So we'll work on rules and all that kind of stuff in a separate video as well. So username, we're going to enter our text view that we've entered for the username, which was our edit text for the username. Our image, we're just going to keep blank because we have not set up an image yet, but we are going to set up the image when we actually go to our profile. We're just going to give them a default dummy image to work with, just like any other program does, like Discord, for example. It just sets you up with a dummy image. And then age, we're going to get our text view. I don't think we set up a text view for age yet, did we? Create user. Oh, we did. We did set up a text view for age. I couldn't remember. And that is it. So we're going to send that data to our JimJam database. So go to your component section, look for the Firebase object block that says push key value. So what key value we're going to send is actually going to be our get key from our Firebase authentication, which is get our UID. We're going to be sending our key value of our user to the database based off the UID that is created when they create an account with the authentication. And then that information is going to be held inside of our Jam database in here as that key value only for that user that is logged in at that time to edit their information. So let's click back, click save. Now when we sign in, so we're going to create another more block here called sign in user. Okay, so sign in user. What we're going to do with this is we're going to go down to component after we clicked on the puzzle icon, and we're going to create our first intent. An intent sends the user to another class, basically start a new activity. That says at the top, it's used to start a new activity. We could just name this intent 1 just to keep it simple, and we're going to create a new intent. So grab this finish activity. That just basically closes out the last activity so that it's not open anymore. We're going to set screen. So we're going to set our screen to our profile activity when the user has successfully signed in. And we're going to put an extra key. Our key value was UID, if you don't forget, based off of our user's UID that they have been granted access to when they've signed in successfully. So we're going to put that right here. And we're going to drag that up here. And then we're going to make sure that we clear activity top so that this activity is not running in the background. Oops, wrong one. We've already done that. And action right here. No, that's not it either. My mistake. Flags. Clear top. My mistake about that. And intent 1, finish activity. So when the user has successfully signed in, which is what we're going to be handling in our component section on sign in user complete, we're going to get rid of this entire piece right here. Delete that. Go to your more block, grab your sign in user. When they have been verified, when it's been successful that they signed in, meaning that their password isn't wrong and all that fun jazz, this is when they can actually sign in and navigate to their profile page, which is right here. So we should be good to go. Let's run this application. We're going to do this whole process where we create an account. We're going to confirm our account via our email, so verifying it, and then navigate back to the application and then sign in. So open. Okay, so first let's enter our email. Now I know you can't see this. That's because of the way that Android is set up. So my password is going to be password 1, or let's do password test 1 again, just to keep it simple. Let's create a user. Oh, we forgot to do one thing. That was a test. We need to go back to main, and we need to go to create user. Now we ended up creating a user for actually only just our default user database or whatever here. So we didn't actually create a user for our authentication. So what we're going to do is go back here, go to our create user button, and we created a user based off of not our actual text views here. And we're going to do that right now. So let's grab this text view, enter email, enter password. So this is going to be any password. I'm going to go back into my authentication because that account was created and basically my account was sent to my email. So now what we're actually going to do when the create user is activated, we're going to make sure that everything is good to go. And now we can actually create a user, and then that information will be sent off to our email for us to verify. So update, open. Now let's enter our email. So DNA app development, which is my email. So if you guys need any help, I can try to help you via email, but I don't really do a lot of one-on-one help because I try to answer everything in these video guides. So create user. Email verification has been sent perfectly. Okay, awesome. Now email has been sent. Let's go to our email and confirm this. And here it is right here. Let's click on this button right here. And your email has been verified. Now we should be able to sign in. So I actually forgot to do something when I signed in our user. So we forgot to actually send the data to the database when the user was created. So go back into our on create user section here. Don't put it up here in the is verified section. That more block signs user data to database, because we want to send that user data to the database when the user has created the account automatically. You could do it where if they are verified and they sign in and they haven't had any data sent to the database, you could do it that way as well. It just depends on how you want to actually set your application up so that you don't have a whole bunch of random data for emails that aren't sent. So maybe you would want to do it that way. So let's do that. Let's go and send our user data when the user has signed in successfully and sign in that user as well. So let's put that information right here, send user data to database. Now, the other thing we forgot to do when we actually created this user, which is what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to delete this dummy user that I was testing out for a second there, is we forgot to enter our information. So we didn't enter any information here. Now, there's a problem when we don't go into desktop mode on our Google Chrome on a phone, for example, where we can't delete this specific piece of data only. It's very annoying. I don't know why Firebase sets it up that way. So I'm going to go into authentication again. I'm going to delete my user, and we're going to go through the entire process one last time. And yeah, I sometimes kind of forget things myself, and I thought I would just share a little bit of transparency in that regard. So even when we ended up going into our sign-in, we forgot to actually start the activity. So there's another block inside of our component section called start activity intent. So use that one, and then it'll actually start the activity. So what was happening earlier was that it wasn't starting the activity. It was actually just basically closing down the entire application because we didn't start any activities. We actually just forced everything to shut down. That is about it. That's one thing I forgot to do. So on create user complete, we're going to send nothing to the database yet. We're just going to send an email, make sure that the user actually verifies the email. So no stupid data, I'm going to call it stupid data, doesn't get sent to the database. And then when the user has been verified and has signed in successfully, they are going to send the information to the database. Now, again, that would be still not good, because then we'd have to check things like if the user has already been sent to the database, and then what it's going to do is erase that user's data. So let's actually put this back in the onCreate. I know I'm going back and forth on that, but this is what I would do. I would just send it to the database. It's not a big deal. If that user hasn't been authenticated or whatever, it's really not going to affect anything. So run this application, and let's actually go through the whole steps of creating a user, signing in the user, checking that the user's data has been sent to the database, and then we are going to check the user's profile. So let's enter our age. Mine is 67. My username is Bobby Jones. I'm going to go to my email, my DNA app development. My password is going to be password test1, and I'm going to create my user. Okay, now my user has been created. We can go check our database, which is our actual real-time database, and we can see our user's information. There's our age, 67, Bobby Jones for our username. Now I'm going to go into my Gmail, and I'm going to actually make sure that that email has been sent to me, and I'm going to verify it. So no reply, verify, click on the link and verify this. Now I can go back into the application and sign in my user, and now I can successfully actually sign in and go to the next page. What are we going to do here? Well, that'll be in the next video. So enjoy signing in your user, sending data to the database based off of their actual UID. So if we go to the authentication, we go to desktop view for a second, we can see that that UID T6VF2VUY whatever, we can go back to our database, and that is the beginning of our UID that has been sent to our GymJan database. And of course, we're going to be working on rules and stuff like that, because you want to make sure that the users that are in your database are authenticated and they have access to read and write if they are authenticated. Have a nice day. Enjoy coding. See you in the next tutorial.